everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on how to support your mental health during the pandemic. My name is Isabel Hodak. I'm a mental health counselor working for the U Ottawa Counseling Services. The theme today is taking care of your mental health during the challenging times that we are living right now. With the ongoing global pandemic, our daily lives have been impacted, and we are in the process of adapting to all kinds of new things. I hope this webinar can shed light on key issues that we are collectively facing and bring forward helpful tools to consider during these times. So, what's on the agenda? First, we will start with a quick reminder of what stress is and the reactions. Afterwards, we will focus on the particular issues we are facing right now, both as individuals and as a collective. Then we will move to exploring a series of strategies that might be helpful during this time. So, what is stress? Stress can be defined as our mental, physical, emotional, and behavioral reactions to any perceived demands or threats. There are multiple feelings and experiences that we might hear of when talking about stress. Things like feeling overwhelmed, feeling anxious, frustrated, feeling vulnerable, inadequate, out of control. So stress happens to all of us, sometimes in different degrees, in different frequencies, and around different things. We might have different stress indicators as well. So the image on the right depicts common stress reactions and symptoms of stress. In my work with students, whether in counseling or in workshops, I like to share that the first step towards feeling more confident in our capacity to manage stress and our capacity to use our strategies is to build more awareness around our personal indicators of stress. Becoming more aware of the changes we notice in ourselves when we start to become stressed can help us engage in self-care sooner. In terms of the current pandemic, we are collectively experiencing the effects of the pandemic to one degree or another. So the next 3 slides are going to look at common experiences, common feelings and thoughts that we might be having. In terms of an overall heightening of certain emotions, this is normal and common. As I go through the different reactions, you might identify with some of these reactions, identify to them sometimes, and sometimes these might not be around. So please know that ups and downs are normal. And it's important to remember too that we are continuously adapting and coping as best as we know how and as best as we can. So that being said, generally speaking, there are more triggers for worry out there right now. Strong triggers for worry are situations that are ambiguous, like a situation that is open to different interpretations when a situation is unclear. When a situation is novel and new, this can be another trigger for worry because we don't have any experiences to fall back on. Also, when a situation is unpredictable, when we aren't sure what's going to happen, that can also be a trigger for worry. So it sounds like right now as a collective, we are facing a lot of these worry triggers. We are in a situation that we've never faced before. The situation is evolving and unfolding, and there are many unknowns, and it's unclear. Additionally, it's not uncommon to experience more fear right now. Fear can come from all kinds of places, financial uncertainty, stress, fearing what is to come, fearing the unknown, fearing for the health of our loved ones, for our own health. We might also feel this fear in situations that we aren't used to. For example, a grocery store or a place where we would go and buy things can now feel like a scary place. Grief is an experience that has been coming up for some as well. As the situation unfolds, some losses can be experienced, and this can range from grieving the loss of a loved one, of course, and of course other things like grieving the loss of activities for a while, the loss of events, get-togethers that we were looking forward to, the loss of feeling secure and safe in the world, the loss of normalcy, that can hit us as well. Also, we can feel something called anticipatory grief, which is thinking of how the world might change from the pandemic. So we kind of feel and grieve that already. In terms of other feelings, we might feel more anger, we might feel helpless, like we have less control, we might feel confused. So these are only a few of the emotional experiences that might be heightened from our current life context. So not only are we facing a heightened state of stress, we are also experiencing a decrease of certain activities and opportunities that would have positive impacts on our mental health. For example, there might be coping strategies that we relied on in the past that are no longer possible or not possible in the same way anymore. We have less opportunities for face-to-face contacts and interactions. And this change in physical contact can be difficult. We might be struggling with loneliness. We might be missing going to our gym, our place of worship, or other public places where there would be a feeling of community. Similarly, we are most likely experiencing a decrease in social activities. So as we adapt to the reality and stay connected through other means, it can really still feel challenging to live with physical distancing. So all that to say that we are facing decreased opportunities to engage in activities that contributed to our quality of life. So that's why that arrow is going downwards. So in terms of substance use, more specifically, changes in substance use patterns, this is actually frequently seen in periods of acute stress. And what this could look like is drinking more, using more cannabis, smoking more, turning to junk food more than we would normally. So in the next few minutes, we will look at a few ideas to start addressing these changes if they apply to you. So let's go to the next slide. So to bring this all together, we are at the same time experiencing heightened emotions, increased worry, while at the same time facing the loss of certain wellness strategies and social connections. We might also be struggling with unhelpful coping strategies like overusing substances or problematic behaviors. So this makes a complex situation, and I think it's important to acknowledge this and to recognize that this situation is really complex. There's a lot of stress out there, and it's hard to adapt to how ongoing and nonstop the situation is and all of the changes. So let's talk about some strategies to help us cope with these challenging times. So several mental health organizations have been publishing helpful guides, articles, tips to support the community during the pandemic. We have been gathering these resources, and the next slides will present a few of the strategies that have been published. So let's look at a few general tips to start. And as we go through the strategies, please note that these are meant to be ideas to think about, to see if they resonate with you, if you'd like to apply them. This is not a list of things that you must do and follow. So let's start with a general tip of noticing the worry triggers and working towards limiting them if that's possible. In order to do that, we could be mindful of social media use. We could choose trustworthy sources of information, notice the time spent reading and hearing about the pandemic. Essentially, we want to meet our needs for information and updates without incurring too much additional stress. Another general tip is reflecting on what our routine looks like. A good starting point is to reflect on our current needs and working from there. So for students, some might notice that to get the most out of their coursework, they want to watch the class material in the morning in order to start their day with a class. That might help them keep a sense of normalcy, and if that matters to them, then developing a routine around that could be a good idea. That might mean going to bed earlier, for example. When we talk about a routine, we also want to give space to experiment so that we can learn what works best. Another strategy, routine-wise, is to consider regular timing for certain activities like sleeping, eating, waking up. So it doesn't have to be really precise, But keeping those activities between a certain range of time can help build stability for our body and our mind, which is helpful when we think of how there's a lot of instability around us. Last but not least, identifying the positive opportunities and leaning into these can be helpful too. And another general tip is to ask for help if you are struggling. You can start by reaching out to the counseling services. We don't have a wait list. We are here to help you. We're here to help you face what's going on, and you are not alone. I will share the details on how to book an appointment at the end of the slides. So let's look at the next strategy, which is called analyzing worry. So in essence, this strategy involves identifying if our worry falls in a category named real problem worry, or if it falls in a category named hypothetical worry. So the first step is to identify with precision and specificity what we are worrying about. If we can get really specific about the worry, it will really help us with the next steps. So once we have that worry identified, we want to ask ourselves if there is something concrete that we can do about this worry. If the answer is yes, that means we are facing a real problem worry. And a course of action to address that type of worry is to start a problem-solving process. If we answer no to the question, we are probably facing a hypothetical worry. And when we come to that realization, the course of action is to acknowledge that this worry is hypothetical, meet ourselves with kindness, and focus our attention on something else that is important to us right now. And in a few minutes, we will talk about the activity catalog, which will give you many ideas for this step. So the next strategy is self-compassion. So when we think of kindness, empathy, compassion, these are things that we give naturally and wholeheartedly to the people that we love. So imagine if we could be on the receiving end of our beautiful empathy and kindness. A way to start working towards building more self-compassion is imagining what we would tell a loved one if they were experiencing what we are experiencing. So odds are we would not be criticizing our loved one, judging them harshly, or blaming them. We would most likely be responding to them with acceptance. We would listen, hear them out. We would support them and do what we can to be there for them. So self-compassion is a strategy to keep in mind, and it's about reminding ourselves to respond to our emotions, fears, and thoughts in the same way we would if they were someone else's emotions, fears, and thoughts. If self-compassion is a concept that speaks to you, it might be helpful to develop your own positive affirmation. So a positive affirmation is a healing message that you tell yourself. And common affirmations are things like, I can do it, I am strong and capable, I'm a good person, I'm doing my best, I'm good enough, those types of messages. And it can be nice to have your affirmation visible in your environment, because seeing it and hearing it often will help it become more and more part of your own inner dialogue. Now let's look at another tool that can be helpful, and that is mindfulness. So learning and practicing mindfulness can help us to let go of worries because it brings us back to the present moment. For example, focusing on the movement of your breath, the sounds you hear around you, focusing on your feet planted in the ground. Intentionally directing your attention to these experiences can serve as helpful anchors to come back to the present moment and let go of worries. So if you'd like to start practicing mindfulness, if you're curious about it, you can sign up for TAO, Therapy Assistance Online. It's free for all of the U Ottawa community, and it actually contains a mindfulness library. So here is the information. Oops, there it is. All right, so let's move to a few strategies to consider if you are trying to change not so good coping behaviors like overusing alcohol and cannabis. So in order to start a new habit, it's important to gain awareness of the habit you want to change. It's important to set a realistic goal, devise a plan with doable steps. So this is easier said than done. So please don't hesitate to connect with the counseling services around this. Um, Another strategy to consider if you notice you are drinking more is to be mindful of the volume and the frequency and trying to include more interesting non-alcoholic options. For those who might notice overusing cannabis for relaxation, you can try replacing it with a guided meditation sometimes or breathing exercise sometimes. In terms of using cigarettes, if you're open to reducing or quitting, pharmacists are a great resource for that. They can suggest different aids. Last but not least, an important element when changing coping behaviors is accountability and feeling supported. So friends, family, and online forums can be great for that. Also, remember to practice patience with yourself as you build healthy habits. This slide is similar to the last one, but is more specific to increased junk food consumption. So when trying to eat less junk food, strategies to consider are having more fruits and veggies easily accessible, slowing down when eating. Another one is to work on your relationship with your body by expressing gratitude towards it. Again, bringing in friends and family can be helpful for accountability, support, and encouragement. And be kind with yourself throughout this change process. Prioritizing balance is an important strategy to keep in mind during stressful times. So sometimes this concept of prioritizing balance can feel kind of abstract and complicated. So for that reason, we wanted to present this image today that shows a straightforward way to strive for balance. This image explains that feeling a sense of well-being on a given day can be facilitated by prioritizing activities that bring a sense of closeness and connection, activities that bring a feeling of achievement and productivity, and activities that bring joy and pleasure. So, of course, this balance may vary according to the day of the week, according to everybody's individual reality, expectations, demand, life circumstances. However, striving to have at least one of each per day can make a difference. So let's take a look at the next strategy, which kind of relates to this one. So this strategy in itself contains multiple strategies and ideas. Essentially, the strategy is using an activity menu to guide us and to inspire us. So I will be presenting the activity menu that was put together by the clinicians at Psychology Tools. These activities were divided in terms of themes. So let's take a look at the activities. Those relating to animals, writing-oriented activities, reading-oriented, cleaning-oriented, scheduling-related, music-related, activities that relate to trying something new, watching related, so something more passive and relaxing, mending related. So let's look at the next slide. So the activity catalog continues here. We have nature related, which is really powerful, kindness, planning, staying active, so some ideas for that, self-care, mind stimulating ideas, or mind relaxation too, then the creative ones, and the learning oriented activities. So this activity can help us in different situations. This activity catalog, it can help us in different situations. So if we're looking for something to meet the daily balance of achievement, connection, and joy, we can use this catalog to give us ideas. We can also use this catalog when we are trying to expand our stress management strategies. Our final strategy today is on the topic of personal growth and reflection. From from discussions I've had with students, friends, family, there's one really common experience that I have been hearing, and it's that there's a lot of time to think and reflect. So, as a therapist, I know that being particularly connected with our thoughts, feelings, our experience, it can have a lot of value. It can lead to all kinds of positive things like realizations, taking a step back, gaining perspective, reassessing what matters to us, making important decisions, learning more about us, our loved ones in the world, discovering our spirituality. So there's a lot of good that can come from that, um, from introspection. Uh, that being said, though, sometimes spending a lot of time thinking and reflecting can lead us to despair or feeling stuck. Like when we were speaking about the hypothetical worries earlier, we might feel consumed by these and we might struggle. So, this is why I wanted to share a set of questions that I came across, which can serve to guide reflections when we're feeling contemplative and reflective. So, here are a few of these questions. The first one is, what is my relationship with rest and doing less? Of course, this is if this question applies, right? So we want to view the questions from the lens of, does this apply to me, and is this something that I want to spend some time reflecting on when I'm in a space of reflection? Another question is, how could I connect more deeply and with whom right now? If I were to surrender to not knowing and allow it to be what it is, how might my experience change? What have I been putting off making, creating, or doing that could be brought into my world now? How can I best support myself right now? If I were to show up for myself and my community right now, what would that look like? So as I was going through the questions, you might have noticed that some of these questions, maybe they've already been answered for you, maybe fully, maybe partially. If these are of interest to you, I invite you to pick the one that draws you in particularly and to give that question some reflection and time. For those who enjoy journaling, it can even be a good journaling question. So that was the last strategy that I wanted to present today. Let's do a quick summary. So to conclude, today we looked at how we are collectively facing a series of stressors. We saw how ups and downs are normal, and there's a lot of different reactions and emotions we might feel. We talked about a few strategies like self-compassion, analyzing worry, mindfulness, the daily balance image, using the activity catalog. So remember that as you work on these strategies and try to expand your toolbox, this can take some time, and it's normal to experiment. And please remember that there is help available out there. The counseling services is there to help and to support you. So this slide shares all of the different resource material that was used in building this virtual presentation here. For those who want to see the activity catalog from the source, it's the point number 4, the psychology tools link. You can use that link and then you'll find the free guide, and it has the activity catalog in there. So next slide is the resources for students on campus. So on the left, you see a lot of the excellent resources that are available, and we are happy to help you navigate these resources. So don't feel like you need to have them all memorized. Don't hesitate to book a session with us at the counseling services, and we can help you find which resource works best for you. On the right, we have the Good to Talk number, which is a phone and text-based service, and they specialize in supporting students that are in post-secondary institutions. So that's a great 24/7 accessible resource. And then there's the TAO as well that we featured on this slide, which is free, bilingual, available on desktop or on an app. It has all kinds of interesting, interactive psychoed type material on all kinds of different mental health topics. Now let's look at how to get in touch with us. So there are multiple ways to connect with us and to book an appointment. The most common way is to schedule a session by visiting the website that's right here. So you can go on this website, you enter your U Ottawa credentials, and then the list of appointments will appear and you're able to book one. You're also welcome to email our friendly information officers at the email address that appears on the left, counts@uottawa.ca. And at the time of this recording right now, which is in early October, we are not on campus yet, but when we are all back, you can find us at 100 Mary Curie. That's near Bioscience, near the Crossroads buildings. So keep an eye on our website for all updates. That's where they'll be posted. And we're also sharing the YouTube channel for other webinars like this one. So we'd like to thank you for watching. And don't hesitate to get in contact with us if you have any questions or if you'd like to book an appointment. Thank you. Bye.